Okay, I think I'll talk about the market crash today. Now, tomorrow could go up and it could be going up for the next couple of months. You just never know with these things, but I figured I'd use this as an opportunity because people are interested in talking about what I think is going on and what, yeah, okay. So basically, Trump has always been basically a shakedown guy, like a squeezing guy. Forgetting about his TV shows and his fame from that kind of stuff, from being an entertainer or a populist in a sense. As a businessman, he's always worked on the squeeze, right? He builds buildings. A building's a building. It's not really very creative. You buy a building or you buy some land and you build on it. And your profits are generally, the distance between what you sell it for and what you cost to build it. So of course he squeezes all the builders and everybody to get the lowest price. That is built into his DNA, into his history. It's how he thinks. So that's generally what he'll do is because he's a good salesman, and he had his parents' money, right, is he would sell something and people would give him money. A bank would give him money, which really isn't the bank's money, it's other people's money, right? And they give the other people's money because, hey, it's Trump, it's his name on it. They want to do it. They believe in whatever, and they do it. And of course, he squeezes everybody. And in the end, the quote suckers lose and he wins and other wins and everybody moves on to the next thing. But, squeezing is a big part of it. So what he's been doing is squeezing all these countries, and tariffs are one way to do it, or asking for Greenland or whatever, or kidnapping the president, whatever. These are all forms of extortion, squeezing. Yeah, I mean that's just his method, and then trying to force, when he what he calls a better deal, is that you're so desperate that you will give up some money because you need the money you're going to get paid. Even if you lose money, you need that money more than to just walk away from it. Like you don't have the power to walk away from it. You will get killed because you'll get injured because it's better than dying, right? You'll say, okay, I'll give up my arm as long as I can get away with my life. And that's essentially what many contractors have to do who work for Trump or anybody or any of these countries. So that anyway, that's the thing. That's what he does. Now, in doing that, he is basically destroying the dollar because when Trump used to do this, many contractors in New York got smart to this and they just didn't do business with him anymore, right? So, I mean, it's not, people seem to think like, oh, Trump was like this big successful businessman. Everybody wanted to do business with him. That's not true. Like many of them just moved on. They didn't do business with him, and he went to other things. He'd do his airline, his university, or whatever. These other kinds of scams. He's not really in the hotel business anymore because nobody trusts him. But now he's taking that same thing. He's doing it with the dollar. So at the end of the day, nobody's going to trust the dollar. But I want to explain this more on a sort of psychological level and how there's sort of unintended consequences that I think people aren't taking into consideration here. So, because he's doing this, everybody has to reassess where their money is. So, let's just say that Trump is going to go after Venezuela, right? So, if he's going after Venezuela, you have to think, do you want to stay invested in an oil company down there, right? Chevron, they have some assets in Venezuela. Do you think what he did is good for Chevron or bad for Chevron? Now, you might think, oh, that's good, right? He's going to go and he's going to take over Venezuela. But I think it's any person who follows it. No, he's just going to create a civil war there. So it's not going to be more. He's not going to get more money. You get less. So if I was in Chevron, I'd take my money out of Chevron or any company that specifically did business with Venezuela until I knew for certain that that it's going to work out, right? Wouldn't you? I mean, it doesn't make sense to wait while he's disrupted this thing. And that's what he's doing. He's going around disrupting everything. And if you're smart, you're going to take your money out until you figure out what that's going to do. So the problem with that is that that's very bad. It's very bad for business, right? Businesses work on stability, on being able to plan ahead. So if you're in any sort of business and you're working, developing something or doing something, and somebody pulls money away from you or credit away from you, right? That means it could kill you even though you don't really deserve to die, right? I mean, let's just say you're a store, right? And you make all your money during Christmas season, right? But in the summer, for whatever reason, Trump attacks you and everybody pulls the money out. Then you go to borrow money to buy merchandise to sell at Christmas, and you can't buy that merchandise. Then you go bankrupt the next year. But you don't go bankrupt because you can't sell the merchandise. You went bankrupt, right? Because of an external factor, because your lack of credit. And that's what Trump is doing. He's making the business world, the dollar, it is not working in the right way. It is pulling out the money. The money is going all over the place. Everybody's moving money around. And it's creating an environment where you can't run businesses, any businesses. He's making it difficult for all businesses to run. And of course, people have pointed this out, right? Or people have pointed out that the tariffs are bad for the Americans. But what they're not really pointing out is that this can have huge consequences going forward. So take the store that makes all its money in Christmas. I mean, you can't just make the store come back. That store has 1,000 employees, right? They can't buy the inventory. They go bankrupt the next year. They fire the 1,000 employees. You can't just call them all back. You can't just re-sign those. That's gone. So a lot of momentum and economic momentum is gone. So Trump is killing all this economic momentum, but nobody is really analyzing and saying, well, let's add this up. Or I should put it another way. People don't take that seriously, right? Congress and the Senate, all they think about is the next election, right? Nobody takes it seriously that this is going to harm you, because everybody's thinking, well, no, I'll take my money out of that store that can't borrow and I'll put in another store so I'll be okay. No, you won't, because eventually it's a contagion and it hits everybody and everybody loses. You don't win. There's no place to hide. The other thing that's going on having to do with like real war, it's a similar thing. So you have, all these Russians, right? They're leaving, they're going to Turkey or Cyprus or wherever, right? And they're bringing their money with them. And, people think, oh, well, that's okay. Like that money is good. Like they're going to Cyprus and they have their money. They're buying, some beachfront homes and they're going to do okay. Or the Israelis are going to Cyprus or whatever. Israelis are coming to America. Like everybody's taking their money elsewhere and going to start a new life. Yeah. But the businesses that money is based on now is hurt. And their expectation is, like a Russian or an American or anybody, all the wealthy have this expectation, I can take my money and move it to a different country and start over. And it's okay because that money will always keep its value. So the Russian, goes to Turkey, let's just say, or Cyprus or wherever, and buys this home, right? And then they buy $1 million for the home, right? And they have $1 million in the bank. They're like, okay, it's fine. Like I have $1 million in the bank. I can last another 5-10 years till I start a new business. Well, if the markets crash and the dollar crash, all this stuff, and their money now isn't worth much, what are they going to do? But I think that has to happen. There's no way it cannot happen because it's a misallocation of capital and money. When you're taking money all over the world and you're separating it from the businesses that are running, and those businesses themselves can't get credit because Trump and this nonsense and Putin and Netanyahu and all these freaking idiots, right, are running the world in this big, pissing contest and wrestling match and extortion and squeezing. When all this squeezing and extortion is going on, these businesses, everything that's the money is based on, is getting crushed. And eventually it has to even out. The value of the money, if you leave wherever and you go set up shop with your savings, that whatever that's based on, whatever you hold as an asset that's doing that money, it has to do something. The money itself is worthless. Money only has value when it's connected to an income stream. But when all these income streams are threatened, are disrupted, and nobody can invest anymore, and you have all this rising crime, what's going to happen? It has to happen. The question is when. I don't know when, right? Now, it might be now. It might be in a year or two from now, but it's going to happen. And others have thought it's going to happen years ago. At some point, it has to break because this is what's going on and there's no going back. This is like Humpty Dumpty. Like I say, Humpty American Dumpty. It's going to fall down, crack apart. You cannot put it back again. The, the safety of the dollar, the usefulness of the dollar, that was like a huge historical thing from World War II because Europe had all its manufacturing destroyed. The United States had the manufacturing. Because everybody had to come to the United States for goods to build it, the dollar became the reserve currency. And because the United States has these laws and whatever, but the United States, has jettisoned the law, says like the laws don't matter anymore now. Now we're back to extorting because, by the way, the U.S. did extort Europe after World War II. Like Europe had to pay what they had to pay. I mean, I think England just finished paying off the United States in 2006 or whatever. Again, business people aren't nice. This whole idea that countries are all nice to each other and business is about competition and it's fair and you have laws, that's nonsense. And on the ground level, we're all dicks, okay? So you have all this broken down. So what is next? I mean, if it's a real, that's the thing. Like Trump is saying, yes, we're going to have a fight of the fittest. And Americans are deluded in thinking they are the fittest. They are not fit. They're fat, dumb, and stupid. I mean, they're just lazy, just entitled. I'm not telling anything anybody, myself included, I'm not telling anything anybody doesn't know. The United States has 0.13% of global shipping construction. Any war we get in, after 6 months, when our first ships are sunk, what new ships are we going to build? Where are we going to build them? Who is going to build them? We have the expectation like, oh, well, our money is worth so much that sure, if we get into a war, we can go buy, pay India dollars to build some warships from us or China or wherever. No, you can't. It doesn't work that way. China is what the U.S. was back in the 20s. It has humongous manufacturing capability. We don't. The whole idea of Trump that like somehow the world needs what we have is wrong. The world liked what we had. It went along with it. It was a nice little system. Okay, you have, the reserve currency and you have the most powerful military in the world, but nobody really questioned whether it had the most powerful military in the world. It's just something everybody sort of wanted to believe just so they could get on with business, right? So, and that was fine. But it's not true. We don't have the most powerful military in the world. Our military doesn't have the supply ships. It doesn't have the shipyards. It doesn't have the factories, the steel making. We are a paper tiger. The only thing we had were our laws and our banking and our currency. And so that's why I wrote that article, last week about Powell. And what's interesting, when I first wrote it, it seemed like nobody cared. Like I posted on LinkedIn, no comments. I posted it on Facebook, nothing, a little bit. But actually, when I put it on Medium, it's getting thousands of views and lots of comments. So it's definitely resonating with people. So I think people do recognize that Trump going after Powell was really this breaking the last straw on the camel's back, perhaps. I mean, it's one. There are times you can take your pick, right, of what he's done. But all these things, you cannot reconstitute this. This is, you've boiled the milk. You're never getting the milk back. And again, I'm not saying that I don't think anything's gonna be done. It's just too late. I just want to explain it in a way that, again, what's really happening, and I feel the media doesn't really cover it, is forget all these big subjects, big issues, like what's the yen doing and, the euro and Greenland and stuff like that. That's not the problem. The problem is each individual person is pulling their money around to try and get out of harm's way. And in trying to get out of harm's way, they're actually putting their business in a very vulnerable position. So all the world's businesses are now can't grow because they're vulnerable and they're scared and there's no stability. They can't grow, they can't go anywhere. And so once it's realized that there's no going back right? That this free-for-all is just going to be a huge breakdown, then it will all break down.